Hey everyone, it's now the end of week 2 with my chicks. I'm going to show you what has changed in the brooder since we first started, as well as my daily maintenance routine, and I'm also going to give them some treats, so we'll see how they react. I shared with you last week that I'm using pine shavings as the bedding in the brooder. It's really important that you keep the bedding clean because you're removing moisture and the chances for the chick to eat their own poop or the poop to get in the water or the feed. So definitely clean it every day. Some people will put newspaper underneath the shavings so that they can then roll up the shavings in the newspaper and easily take it out. I find that using your standard dustpan does the job really well. So what I'll be doing is I actually remove everything from the brooder. I don't remove the chicks though, I leave them in there, and they'll just run to the opposite side as I clean it. And then I just scoop up all of the shavings and I put them in a box and I take them out to our compost. I make sure that at the same time that I am cleaning out the bedding, I also freshen up their water as well as their food. So you want to make sure that you are cleaning their food and water daily. It will help prevent disease and help them from getting sick. So what I'll do is just make it a routine that every time I'm changing the bedding, I'm also freshening up their food and their water. You might notice that several things have changed in the brooder since last week. The water I put up on 2 pieces of wood to keep it cleaner, so I didn't have to change it as frequently because they have been running around like crazy and the pine shavings will drop in there as well as any droplings that are in here. I also added some sticks here so that they can kind of perch on them, and just some miscellaneous toy type things to keep them interested. Now I'm gonna go ahead and start cleaning this out. So like I said, I'm going to remove everything from here. I'm not necessarily gonna take the chickens out. Upstairs and I wash this with just standard dish soap. Now when I refill it with the new food, I'm only gonna refill it halfway, and I do that because I'm cleaning this every day. I know some people will probably just freshen up the food every day, but I physically want to clean it every day, so I just fill this up halfway with food so that I'm not wasting as much food. And then you just screw on the lid here and flip it over, and when we put it in, the chicks are gonna go crazy. Now, as for the water, at this point, I'm going to stop putting in the electrolyte and the probiotic that I showed you last week. And instead, I'm going to just put a splash of apple cider vinegar in there. So this is an organic apple cider vinegar from Trader Joe's, but I would recommend any organic apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar, not apple cider. So let's put it back in. All right, little chickies, are you ready for your food and water? Put the wood back down. The water. Okay, you're interested, but maybe not so interested as you will be in this. Oh yeah, look at that. They act as though they haven't eaten in days. Look at them. That's my standard maintenance for my brooder. I'm cleaning out their food, water, and bedding daily. You saw how I did it. It's really easy, it's not hard. So it's really important to prevent disease to keep this clean. Now for the fun stuff, I'm going to give them their first treats ever, so we're gonna see how they react. This is just some scrambled egg that I cooked in a pan, so I'm just gonna give them a little bit of it. I'm not gonna give them all of this today, just a little tiny bit. I'm gonna put it in my hand and we'll see how they react. The purpose of me giving them treats is to teach them to come when I call them. So my call is just gonna be a standard chirp, chirp, chirp to try to get them to come whenever I call them, especially if when they're older and they're free ranging, if I need them to get away from a certain area or maybe get away from the road, I want them to come whenever I call them. So I'm gonna use the treats as the technique to train them to come to me when I call. Anytime you give chicks food other than their starter feed, you have to make sure that you also give them chick grit. So although eggs are relatively easy to digest for the chicks, you still want to make sure that you give them some chick grit, especially if you plan on introducing other treats relatively soon as well. You might notice that we added this top to the brooder. The chicks are growing their feathers and their wings and they are trying to fly, and some of them have figured out how to get on top of the brooder even with the little cover, plastic cover I have on there. So we put this on to keep them safe and to keep them inside the brooder. It's just your standard wood frame with some wire fencing on top that we had left over from the garden, and that will do the trick. And they're still relatively small, so I think we'll be good. The last thing that I want to show you is my technique for actually picking up the chicks. This is one thing that I kind of learned as I started picking them up, but whenever you pick up the chicks, you don't want to pick them up with your claw hand. It's better to pick them up from underneath, kind of scoop them. So let them see your hand, let them know that they can walk onto your hand and kind of scoot them onto your hand and then cup them and then lift them out. And so that's what I've been doing with my chicks. They seem to react a lot better and not scream or squeal as much. And I think it's partially because they can see your hand and so it's not as scary for them. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you learned some tips and tricks for maintaining your brooder. I'll see you guys next week with an update and you'll see how big the chicks have gotten again.